And this is time that we discuss the most important literary philosopher, Aristotle. Aristotle was the polymath of Greek tradition, and he is known for his connection with various branches of learning like physics, biology, zoology, metaphysics, logic, ethic, poetry, music, linguistics, politics, and the issues of government. And Aristotle is therefore considered as a polymath. And he was the student of Plato, and at the same time he was the teacher of Alexander the Great. And as a student of Plato, Aristotle started as a Platonic, but later he shifted to empiricism. Started as a Platonic and shifted to empiricism. Empiricism is the way of understanding truth through sensory experiences. And the great English empiricist is Francis Bacon. And Bacon is considered as the father of empiricism. And John Locke, who lived during the time of Dryden, is also considered as an empiricist philosopher. And these people actually find knowledge through sensory experiences. And Bacon had to sacrifice his life for sensory experiences, for empiricist philosophy and science. He tried to learn about the preservation of meat by keeping the meat in snow. And he did the experiment with a dead fowl and put it in ice and examined it, and thereby caught a fever and developed into pneumonia, and Bacon became dead. And Bacon has been regarded as a father of empiricist philosophy and a martyr to science. And Aristotle was also an empiricist. He started as a Platonist and turned to become an empiricist. And Aristotle's school was called Lyceum. It was the name given to his school, Lyceum. And Aristotle is mainly popular for his poetics as far as the literature students are concerned. And poetics is considered as the fountain of all literary theory. So the first extant philosophical treatise on literary theory. And as per the treatise, all art is imitation, and it was the fundamental maintained by Aristotle that all art is imitation. Poetry imitates through narration, whereas drama imitates through action. Poetry imitates through narration, and drama imitates through representation or action. And he actually produced the difference between poetry and drama in his book called Poetics. And poetry can be a long work, and it is not necessary for a person to complete reading of poetry at a single sitting. But a dramatic work, it should be briefer, that the audience should have to watch it at a single sitting. And it should confine itself to the events that take place during a single revolution of the sun. And it is the constraint with the tragedy that it should be performed within a single day, that people should have to watch the play at a stipulated time period. It should be time oriented. It should have to produce things that develop during the single revolution of a sun. And Aristotle made a long discussion on tragedy. And tragedy, according to Aristotle, is the imitation of an action that is serious, that is complete and of a certain magnitude. And these are the fundamentals that we have to remember from Aristotle. According to Aristotle, tragedy is an imitation of an action. Actually, he spoke about tragedy in his book Poetics. And there are 26 chapters we come to find in the Poetics. And the 26 chapters are ordered in a special way. From the first chapter to the fifth chapter, the discussion is on poetry, the classification of poetry into different kinds, and what are the various kinds of poetry. Is the discussion made by Aristotle in the opening part of the book Poetics. And from 6th chapter to 19th chapter, so it is the long area, he discusses tragedy. And it is in the 6th chapter of his book, he refers to catharsis. And it was one question asked by UGC. So the term catharsis is discussed by Aristotle in which chapter of his book? He discusses the term catharsis in the 6th chapter of his book. The discussion on tragedy begins from the 6th chapter and ends only in the 19th chapter. Say there are 14 chapters actually on tragedy. And tragedy was the one and only branch of drama discussed by Aristotle. And the reason why Aristotle preferred tragedy was that tragedy was the real thing, whereas comedy has got nothing important. And the important element in the life is that of tragedy. And Aristotle considered drama as tragedy, and he never went to the extent of speaking about comedy. And it was at the time there were the comedies also produced. Aristophanes was there producing the comedies. And Aristotle takes only the play written by Sophocles entitled Oedipus Rex or Oedipus the King as the one and only play for the discussion of tragedy in his book Poetics. No other tragedy has been discussed by Aristotle. The model tragedy taken by him is Sophocles' play Oedipus Rex. And he has not gone to the extent of speaking about the plays written by Aristophanes. Aristophanes was a comic playwright who lived during the time, producing plays like frogs, clouds. But he has not been taken into consideration by Aristotle when he produced his book on the Poetics. From the 6th chapter to 19th chapter, the discussion is on tragedy. And chapter number 20 to 22, these three chapters discuss poetic diction, style, vocabulary. Again, he goes into poetry. And in chapter number 24 and 26, the discussion is on epic poetry, and epic is compared with the tragedy. And he gives an answer to Plato in the chapter entitled 24. It is in chapter 25. So very interesting thing. Normally, we may think that the answer to Plato is given in the last chapter, and UGC may perhaps ask the question, in which chapter of his book Poetics Aristotle refutes the opinions of Plato or gives answer to Plato's comments on literature and poetry. And the answer is given in chapter number 25 and not in the last chapter. Normally, we may find that in the last chapter, such retributions and answers will be provided by the author. But here we come to find that the answer is given to Plato in chapter number 25 and not in chapter 26. So in 24th and 26th chapter, the discussion is on epic and the comparison of epic with tragedy. And in chapter number 25, he gives reply to criticism against poetry leveled by Plato. And I told you that there are 26 chapters in Poetics, and catharsis is discussed in chapter number 6. And Aristotle in the Poetics defines tragedy as an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. And in the second part of the treatise, Aristotle elaborates the technical qualities of a tragedy. He comes to discuss the technical qualities of a tragedy. And they are plot, character, diction, thought, melody, and spectacle. And the first is plot, and the last is spectacle. Starting with plot, and according to Aristotle, plot is the life and soul of a tragedy. So later in the English dramatic field, we come to find the emphasis is given on dialogues. So in the Restoration comedies, we come to find the emphasis is given on dialogues. Dialogues seem to be more important than plot and characters. But according to Aristotle, the soul and life of a tragedy is plot, and character comes only second. And plot is called by him as mythos, and character described by him as ethos. Mythos, plot, and ethos, character. Then there is diction. Diction is actually the dialogue in the tragedy. And then there is thoughts. There is melody, and at the end comes a spectacle. And the first element is plot, and the last element is spectacle. The first is plot, and the least is spectacle. According to Aristotle, plot is the life and soul of a tragedy, and character has been given only secondary importance. And Aristotle says that the action of a tragedy should be complete and of a certain magnitude, that it should have a proper beginning, a middle, and an end. It should have a proper structure. So at the time when we discussed Ferdinand de Saussure, we spoke about structures, and the structures are interrelated. No structure can be identified in isolation, and all structures are related with the bigger or the larger structure, a part of the larger structure. And the structure actually was a term discussed by Aristotle in his Poetics. In the opinion of Aristotle, a tragedy should have a proper structure. It should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he discusses between simple plot and complex plot. Aristotle actually spoke about complex plot in the tragedy. And in a complex plot, there must be peripetia or anagnorisis, and there are the terms like peripetia, anagnorisis, hamartia, and catharsis. And there are very popular terms included in Poetics. And the terms like peripetia, anagnorisis, hamartia, and catharsis, and they are the most important terms. Peripetia is actually the sudden reversal of fortune. When a person comes to identify that he has been changed into a different person, this is what called peripetia. And the king Oedipus has been turned into a blind beggar. When Oedipus comes to understand that he had married his mother, that he had killed his father, out of remorse he blinded his eyes and went away from his kingdom as a beggar, followed by his daughters. And the sudden change from kingship to beggarhood is what called peripetia, a sudden reversal of fortune. Either into a good way or into a bad way. In the case of Oedipus, it is into a bad way. So the realization that he had done such wrong things in his life made him take the decision to lead the life of a beggar. And this is what called peripetia. And remember the terms always, because UGC will be asking questions connected with the terms. Peripetia is the sudden reversal of a fortune. And anagnorisis is actually the recognition or the realization of truth. So when one comes to understand the truth, Oedipus comes to understand that he had done the wrong things in his life, the hateful things in his life, that he had killed his father, that he had got married with his mother. And the sudden realization actually called anagnorisis. And anagnorisis is followed by peripetia. Anagnorisis comes first, the realization comes first, and then the sudden reversal of fortune takes place. So anagnorisis is followed by peripetia. And Aristotle points out that the ideal hero is one who is not preeminently good or just. We can't think that the hero is a just man or a good man. He may have a number of misfortunes upon him. And normally the misfortunes will come upon him as part of his fate. And this is actually referred to the term hamartia. Hamartia can be described as wrong judgment, error in the character. And it can be translated as error in judgment, hamartia. And we come to find hamartia in the popular characters in literature. So the wrong judgment. In Julius Caesar we come to find the vaulting ambition. The vaulting ambition. And he is described by Brutus and others as a highly ambitious man. Ambitiously a corrupt man. And in Macbeth also we come to find it is vaulting ambition. He is made to kill Duncan. In fact, with the intention of becoming the king. And in Othello also we come to find his vaulting suspicion is his hamartia, the wrong judgment in his character. And this is also a part of the hero in a tragedy. So in a hero we come to find the error of judgment, what called hamartia, and then the realization of truth, what called anagnorisis, and then the reversal of fortune, what called peripetia. Peripetia, anagnorisis, and hamartia are terms connected with tragedy, developed by Aristotle. And Aristotle is mainly popular for the term catharsis. And it is his greatest contribution to the study of tragic art. And it is called catharsis. And catharsis has been considered as a medical term. So it is referred to purgation. Catharsis means purgation, purgation of the human soul. When the spectators find the theatrical performance, their mind becomes purgated. They may feel anger, they may feel hatred, and they may feel anxiety, sudden strong feelings. But at the end, through the poetic justice, catharsis will become affected. The mind of the spectators and the readers will become purified, purgated. And this is what called catharsis, an important element of a tragedy. Actually, there are people who stood against catharsis. Dryden, for example, stood against catharsis. He was anti-cathartic. And he produced his plays without affecting a catharsis, the heroic plays. And in the definition of the heroic plays also, Dryden spoke against catharsis. Dryden was anti-cathartic in his attitude of dealing with the dramas. And according to Aristotle, one of the very important elements of a tragedy is that it must be able to rise catharsis. It must be able to purgate the hurts of the onlookers. And tragedy does not merely provide pleasure. And it must lead to the purification of the soul. According to Aristotle, it should not only provide pleasure, but it should purify the mind also. And Aristotle was the first philosopher who recognized the appeal of poetry. And this is remarkable when we take into consideration the fact that Aristotle was a disciple of Plato. And Plato was a philosopher who wanted to banish poetry from his ideal republic. Plato actually wanted to banish poetry from his ideal republic. And we come to understand the difference between Plato and Aristotle in their attitude towards poetry. Plato wanted to banish poetry from his ideal republic, but Aristotle praised poetry. And these are the things mainly we have to remember from Aristotle. Thank you.